If you haven't been noticing, then let me tell you, Docker has created whole MCP ecosystem, and they have been coming up with a lot of new features in this particular ecosystem. So earlier in the Docker MCP ecosystem, we have covered MCP Toolkit and Catalog. In this particular video, we are going to focus on the new feature which they have introduced, and this is something called Dynamic MCP. So let's see like how this is going to fit in into a picture and what kind of flexibility it's going to provide to us. So as we know, the first thing what we have to look for are the MCP servers if we have to connect with any kind of MCP server. So Docker has solved that problem coming up with MCP Toolkit and Catalog. So under MCP Toolkit, you would be having a section of Catalog, and under this catalog, as of now, there are MCP servers listed. Now actually when we have to connect with these MCP servers, then it's more like you have to use your clients which are going to support the MCP capability, and then you have to call this MCP servers endpoint and configure it into your clients, because there could be a lot of MCP servers which you would like to connect at once. So it won't be feasible if you are going to connect everything one by one. So just to solve that, they have come up with the MCP gateway, and we have already covered MCP Toolkit, Catalog and MCP gateway in our one of the previous videos. So I will put that link in the description if you want to go over it. So earlier what we were doing, even though there was MCP gateway, but if we have to connect to all these MCP servers, then we have to go to Catalog and have to manually pick all these servers. So suppose if I want to connect with this fetch and playwright, then I'm going to click on this plus icon and it's going to start listed in my server. So until unless I add it manually, it's not going to get reflected in the MCP servers, and I cannot connect to it using my MCP clients. Now just to solve this problem, they are coming up with certain tools under MCP gateway only. So now MCP gateway is going to support n number of tools. So here you can see the list of all these tools, and these tools are basically going to help us to enable the dynamic MCP. Let's say I'm looking to connect to SQL database MCP servers. So in this case, what would happen? We are just going to ask this simple prompt to our MCP client, which is going to have all this MCP support, and we can use like any clients over here. So we are going to ask, I want to connect with SQL database MCP server, and in that case what would happen? So first of all, it will invoke this MCP find, and MCP find will try to look for relevant MCP servers for you based on the given query. In this case, you do not have to remember the name of the MCP servers, or you do not have to go to Catalog and manually add all the servers. You can just rely on these new tools which are added into MCP gateway, and it will help you to identify all the relevant servers. So first of all, you are going to get a list of the servers using MCP find. Then based on the output what you are getting, you can ask it to add any specific server, and it will add it for you, and you can just go ahead and perform your queries over there. So just to show it in action, I am going to go to my Docker Desktop first, and this is very important. The Docker Desktop version which you are going to use, it should be greater than 4.50 version. If you have any version which is less than 4.50 version, then this dynamic MCP is not going to get supported over there. So just remember that. Now we have to go to MCP Toolkit, and under Toolkit you can see there is nothing in MCP servers, and you can see the catalog over here where we are going to have all these MCP servers. And if I go to clients, then you can see it supports n number of clients. So whether you are using Claude Desktop, Codex, Cursor, Gemini, CLI, so all can be connected directly from here. So what I can do in this case, in this particular case, I am going to use the Visual Studio Code. I will just go ahead and click on connect, and you can see client connected to the MCP Toolkit. To continue, restart the client. So here I just have to click on the connect, and it's going to set up everything for me on the Visual Studio Code front. And similarly, like whatever options you do see over here, if you do have all those things installed on your system, then you just have to click on the connect button, and then everything would be taken care by Docker Desktop only to set up the configuration at your end, and you do not have to do anything. And this is very convenient. So I do not have to create any MCP config file and have to declare anything as such. I just clicked on the connect button, and the gateway and the dynamic MCP, everything is going to set up for me automatically. Now what I need to do, I need to go to my Visual Studio Code, because in this case, I had it configured in the Visual Studio Code. And you have to make sure like agent mode is enabled in your GitHub Copilot. So I do have this agent mode enabled over here. Like you can select any of the models from here. So I have selected Claude in this case. And we have to make sure all the required tools are over here before actually we started asking any question. So for that, we can just click on this configure tools. And I do have like few of the things built in. But here you can see I do have this MCP Docker here, and it has been enabled by the configuration only which we have just invoked. And you can see all the tools listed here. So we do have MCP add, MCP find, MCP remove, and all other tools which are going to be enabled for us by default for the dynamic MCP. This is in place. Now just to see this dynamic MCP thing in action, and just to make this demo a bit simple, I'm just going to ask for a basic MCP server. So in this case, I'm asking I need MCP server to get the flight details. And I don't know which particular MCP server I need to add in over here. So I'm just relying on Dynamic MCP to figure out the required server for this. And you can see like it is asking for our permission to invoke this MCP find with this particular query. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit on allow. And it has got this Google Flight MCP server. So there is only one MCP server available for this query, which is going to be the Google Flight. And this is something which it is asking us to add it. So I will just go ahead and click on allow. And this particular MCP server is going to be set up for us. Now you can see like it has already set up this Google Flight MCP server and it's active. And just to validate it, whether it's active or not, we can again go to the tools. And here you can see under the MCP Docker, earlier we were having all these tools. But now you can see like few of the methods are already included over here, which is get round trip flight, get flights on date, and find all flights in range. So these tools are coming from this Google Flight MCP server only. So let me just go ahead and ask some question to invoke this particular MCP server tools. So I'm just going to say I'm looking for the cheapest flights from Delhi to Mumbai for tomorrow. Please suggest. Now in this case, you can see it's first of all asking get flights on date. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on allow. And it has find the best flight for us, which is going to be Indigo Airline. The departure is going to have a 2:30. And here we do have the price also. And here they're asking for certain question, which we can definitely go ahead and ask it. But you can see it in action. Like I'm not doing anything as such as of now. From identifying the MCP server, getting that added, everything has been happening automatically and I do not have to do anything as such. So let me ask something else. Let me just say I'm looking for the MCP server for NoSQL databases. And again, it's going to run the MCP find. I'm going to allow it. And it's going to search for the databases. I'm going to allow it. And then it is suggesting, okay, these are the different NoSQL databases which I can use it. And it's saying like which NoSQL database would you like to set up. I can add and configure it for you. In this case, like if I just go ahead and ask is to add any of the database, then you can see like what exactly are going to be required. And that is something that you need to pass it on. So even if I select the MongoDB, it's going to ask us the connection string configuration, which you can pass it to us, and then it will automatically configure it for you. So again, you do not have to do any kind of configuration. But even in the cases where we have to pass certain auth data or certain keys, we can just pass it to it and it will set it up for us. So even if you are adding n number of MCP server over here, even in that case, you do not need to worry about it. You can just go ahead and ask a question. Everything is going to get handled via MCP gateway and it is going to route your queries to the appropriate servers. Everything is going to be handled without you being involved in each and every step for the configuration. And that's the advantage we are getting like using Docker Desktop. So that's all what we have in this video. Thank you for watching.